In Northern Virginia, there is probably no tall tale as famous and wide-stretching as the legend of Bunnyman Bridge. This story can be heard in the echoes of middle school hallways, over the crackle of college bonfires, through the noise of low-budget podcasts, and through the glimmer of Hollywood cinema. But is it a true story? And if not, what is it based on? Was it a total lie? Or was it actually based on something more sinister? On this episode of Locals Only, who is the Bunnyman? We start our story today. Every Halloween, people can't wait to tell their recently transplanted friends new to the Virginia area their favorite ghost story about Bunnyman Bridge. Like most urban legends, there is no definitive tale. Everyone's version is just as individual as their fingerprint. The version I heard over the years is the story of Clifton, a quiet little hamlet smack dab in the middle of nowhere. It's west of Alexandria, south of Centerville, east of Manassas, and north of Woodbridge. This is the kind of place that your grandparents would retire to. The kind of town with an ice cream shop within walking distance of everything. The kind of place you walk down the streets at night alone and leave your doors unlocked. That is, until the insane asylum opened up not far from town. One version of the story I heard starts in Clifton, but in 1904. There was an insane asylum opening up not far from town. So, being filled with fear and misunderstanding, the local residents got it shut down. And all those poor people were taken by bus to Lorton Prison. Unfortunately, on the way, the bus cracked open like a bottle, spilling all those helpless patients all over the countryside. Fortunately, they were able to find all those patients, except for one. The one that went missing was the escaped mental patient, Douglas Griffin. You see, after the crash, he wasn't just missing, he disappeared. Weeks passed, and according to the tale, Griffin was able to survive on the local wildlife and taking refuge under the local Colchester Overpass Bridge, where a train would rocket past overhead daily. This went on for a while. Then one Halloween night, a group of kids were hanging out around town and decided to go to the old hangout spot under Colchester Road Bridge. But in the morning, not a single kid returned home. A local boy found each kid murdered, chopped to bits. And so, after the city's largest manhunt in history, they finally found Douglas Griffin, the escaped mental patient, in a bunny rabbit suit, covered in blood, probably stolen from one very unlucky trick-or-treater. So as the rumor goes, if you visit Bunnyman Bridge on Halloween night at midnight, you'll end up just like one of those kids, or whatever version of the story you heard. Because of the popularity of this ghost story, a lot of people in the area go to visit Bunnyman Bridge, especially during Halloween. Now, I'm not local to Virginia. I'm also a transplant. But I'm no stranger to hearing local legends. So I decided to do what most people do when they hear something unbelievable. I did some research for myself. I mean, this couldn't be a true story, right? This is just a myth. It's not based on anything. It's just a story based on other people's stories that one person made up. So after a few clicks online, I found several articles and videos catering to those who want to believe the unbelievable. Or in other words, fan fiction. Unfortunately, nearly all the videos and articles that share the story don't share the research. Until one such article claimed to be the truth. This written version, which is still up, by the way, you can check the video description for this link, entitled The Clifton Bunny Man by Timothy C. Forbes, posted on a website called castleofspirits.com. Because this was uploaded in 1999, this makes it the oldest known reference to the Bunny Man on the internet. In this written version, it has several details, including names, crimes, and dates, leading all the way back to 1904, just like the version I heard. Except, it goes all the way up to 1987. It seems the Bunny Man has been busy for a long time. Now, Mr. Forbes kindly thanks the meticulous record-keeping of the old Clifton Library. So, me enjoying the story and wanting to make sure I got the history right, I called the Clifton Library to thank them and give them credit. Except, there is no Clifton Library. I couldn't find Timothy C. Forbes. So this website turned out to be just a huge prank. But that wasn't good enough for me. I wanted to see how deep this rabbit hole goes. And upon further investigation, I came across a man who was just as hungry for the truth as I was. In comes Brian A. Conley, a historian and archivist from Fairfax County Public Library, a real library this time. He took the torch of truth and never let it go out. And over a period of several years, he did his research and due diligence. In fact, he's still updating the story, making sure everything is just right. Only a couple days before I started recording this, on May 12th, did he update his website. None of this would have been possible, actually, without his scholarly efforts and painstaking detail in writing such a wonderful story. His story is linked below in the description and should be read immediately after viewing this. You owe it to yourself because it's excellent and it's the truth. He asked several questions in his story, starting with the most important. Was it even based on anything true? The aspect of the story which gets the most attention were the alleged murders. According to Brian A. Conley, researching historical crimes can be very difficult, unless you have some very basic facts to begin with. Since police records are not available for casual review, and court records are indexed by the names of those involved, not location, not type of crime, he had to begin by checking local newspapers. Brian's most valuable resource was the Historical Newspaper Index. Now, this was run by Malcolm Richardson and Barbara Welch. For 10 years, compiled every newspaper in the area. Those two dedicated heroes, combined with the researching capabilities of a computer database, allowed Brian to research every possible connection from 1872 all the way to 1973. What was the first word he searched for? Murder. Now, even though Fairfax County was a farming community until the 1970s, there were over 550 mentionings of killings Brian could find. While there were some gruesome murders dating back to the early 1900s in Fairfax, none of the murders were in any way related to an axe-wielding, psychopathic bunny. Brian hit a dead end. Was this story even as old as that website stated? Was this just another Polybius? A rumor about a rumor that wasn't even based on folklore, but a modern lie posted to a website? Brian was quiet. He kept his head down and kept researching. And then one day, an actual breakthrough occurred. After nearly 8 years of research, he finally got his lead. There was a paper from the Washington Post from November 11th, 2000. It stated that there was an interesting collection of Maryland folklore ranging from the 1950s to the 1990s. Students at 3 Maryland universities collected, researched, and transcribed numerous local legends. In these papers, in these documents, one story from 1973 stood out. A student from the University of Maryland, Patricia Johnson, had a paper titled The Bunny Man. This paper had stories from kids aged 15 to 18 from Prince George's County. Now, in order for someone to get on this paper and publish it, the students had to have 3 things. 1, the story had to take place in an urban setting. 2, it had to exist prior to her project. And number 3, it had to have appeared in print as truth. This was it. This was the important claim he'd been looking for. Sure, you can post anything you want on the internet, but a newspaper, especially in those days, is a far cry from modern news websites. Brian was freaking out. He was sweating with anticipation. He flipped the page. It was gone. Missing. The one page that actually mattered in this set of documents was not there. His grail was gone. He was extremely frustrated. With any hope of quick resolution gone, Brian read and reread the original pages he still had, hoping to glean some piece of information that'll unlock this secret. He had 54 variations of the story. Brian added up what was consistent between each story. 14 of them had different locations. 18 of them involved a bunny man chasing or frightening people, usually children, with an axe. 14 of them told about attacks on cars. 9 had attacked a couple in a car. 5 accused the bunny man of vandalism on homes and buildings. Only 3 mentioned murder. Based on the widespread geographic locations and the significant variation represented in the tales, Johnson actually concluded that the bunny man was nothing more than an urban legend. In short, he didn't exist. There was just too much variation, too much interpretation. Why did one story end one way and the other one end completely different? No, it can't end this way, right? Locals only wouldn't make a story about something that ends like this. This is boring. Yeah, you're right. The story doesn't end here. Brian is a smart man, and he knew the truth could live and die with one source. He kept looking. A fire still burned. After rereading Johnson's paper several times, he noticed something. She heard the tale first, around Halloween in 1970. Having no better leads, he began a search for that missing paper from the Washington Post. Then, after an undetermined amount of time, Brian found it. Bold text at the top of the page screamed out, "Man in bunny suit sought in Fairfax." He had done it. He found solid evidence. No flimsy high school rumors, no internet attention-seeking lie, no clickbait, no missing paper. He found the White Rabbit. In the article, it reads, Fairfax County Police said yesterday they are looking for a man who likes to wear a white bunny rabbit costume and throw hatchets through car windows. Air Force Academy cadet Robert Bennett told police that shortly after midnight last Sunday, he and his fiancée were sitting in a car in the 5400 block of Guinea Road when a man dressed in a white suit with long bunny ears ran from the nearby bushes and shouted, "You're on private property and I have your tag number." The rabbit threw a wooden-handled hatchet through the right front car window, the first-year cadet told police. As soon as he threw the hatchet, the rabbit skipped off into the night. Police said Bennett and his fiancée were not injured. Police say they have the hatchet, but no other clues in this case. Now, if you pay attention here, they said they had the hatchet, which means there's physical evidence. Now, I looked online. This is not in Brian's story, but there are pictures of this axe. I'm not 100% certain this is real. However, I know that people claim it's real. Now, what he does say, though, is,
"Yeah, when I began this project, the aspect that puzzled me the most was the bunny suit. I expected to find that the legend was spawned by an event that was strange or noticeable in some way, but I never suspected the bunny man was really a bunny man."
And then this bombshell. There was a second appearance. The rabbit reappears. A man wearing a furry rabbit suit with ears appeared again on Guinea Road in Fairfax County Thursday night.
Police reported this time wielding an axe and chopping away at a roof support on a new house. Less than 2 weeks ago, a man wearing what was described as a rabbit suit accused 2 persons in a parked car of trespassing and heaved a hatchet through a closed window of the car at 5400 Guinea Road. They were not hurt. Thursday night's rabbit, wearing a suit described as gray, black, and white, was spotted a block away at 5307 Guinea Road. Paul Phillips, a private security guard for a construction company, said he saw the rabbit standing on the front porch of a new but unoccupied house. I started talking to him, Phillips said, and that's when he started chopping. All you people trespass around here. Phillips said that the rabbit told him as he whacked 8 gashes into the pole. If you don't get out of here, I'm gonna bust you on the head. Phillips said he walked back to his car to get his handgun, but the rabbit, carrying the long-handled axe, ran off into the woods.
There we have it. 2 documented appearances by a bunny-suited figure in the same Fairfax County community. Was this the Bunny Man? Or just copycats acting out stories they had heard from somewhere else? Brian returned to Johnson's papers for clues. As mentioned earlier, 14 of her tales mention a couple parked in a car being attacked, but 9 of these specifically mention a hatchet being thrown into the car. Of the 5 mentioning vandalism, 2 describe columns being chopped. There was another revealing story by G. Taylor, the 17-year-old girl, who remarked,
I think it was last year or maybe before that. I don't know. I came home from school and I was listening to the news. I had just gotten in and I heard that there was a man and a woman sitting in a car. It could have been 2 teenagers, but they were just parked and all. And all of a sudden, they looked up and there was this bunny, just this giant bunny ran out of the woods, from behind the trees and all. And he ran in front of the car and he had a hatchet and he threw it through the car and just turned around and went back away. And they were just shocked.
Now, Miss Taylor goes on, but the important parts are 1, she identifies television news as her source of information. 2, she accurately relates the hatchet being thrown into the occupied teenager's car and accusing people of trespassing and police involvement. Now, the 3rd thing she states is it went on for a couple weeks and then stopped. Lastly, she identifies the time frame. The October 22nd news story is clearly the origin of the tale told. Moreover, although the story had mutated noticeably in 22 years, many of Johnson's 53 other versions contain recognizable elements of the October 1970 incidents. Newspaper accounts, oral reports, they can all shed a lot of light on something, but they can't really be trusted to be completely accurate. Brian needed something a little more trustworthy. The Fairfax County Police Department has no official record of the October 18th assault on Robert Bennett and his fiancée, but they do have an investigation report relating to the October 29th vandalism incident. Although the FCPD is not required to release any information about misdemeanor offenses, they kindly supplied a redacted copy of the report for this project. The investigation report confirms the basics of the event as told in October 31st of the Washington Post article. At 10:30 p.m. on October 29th, 1970, 6 officers responded to the 5307 Guinea Road for a subject dressed as a rabbit with an axe. The officers found no rabbit, and the case was turned over to investigator W.L. Johnson of the Criminal Investigation Bureau. Johnson began with a visit to the construction offices of the Kings Park West Division on October 31st, but he found no rabbit. Now, after months of this investigation, it turned out empty. Nobody was charged. Nobody even knew where to start. He says in his following summary on March 14th, 1971,
After a very extensive investigation into this and all the other cases of the same nature, it is still unsubstantiated as to whether or not there was really a white rabbit. The only people who could have seen this so-called white rabbit have been children of rather young ages in the complaint in this case. Upon interviewing everyone in this case that may have had knowledge of any incidences concerning a white rabbit, that has been no significant information uncovered that would lead to the identity of the person or persons that were posing as a white rabbit. This case will be marked as inactive.
So who was the Bunny Man? Now, we might never know exactly what his motivations were, but there are a lot of clues in all these reports and all these newspaper articles. The Bunny Man accused Robert Bennett and his fiancée of trespassing and launched an axe into a window. We know that on October 29th, the Bunny Man told security guard Paul Phillips,
All you people trespass around here.
So it seems that the individual was disturbed by the development in the area. Now, in 1970, there was a lot of homes being built. Until the Second World War, Fairfax County was just farms. With more people joining the government, a lot more houses need to be built. This man probably watched helplessly while everything around him changed. Maybe that also changed him. But why the bunny suit? Could he have been enjoying himself a little too much at a community party? Maybe he wandered off and, in a rage, decided to pick on some people, maybe having more fun than he was. Not even 2 weeks after the first appearance of the Bunny Man, schoolyards lit up like wildfire with stories. Children trying to scare other children. Adults fearing for the lives of their friends and family. By the time Patricia Johnson at the University of Maryland started her work 2.5 years later, the story had already changed rapidly. I'm not sure how the bridge got involved, but that being said, everybody's story is different. What's your story? What did you hear? Because I'm sure it's different than mine, but I'd like to hear it anyways. So this has been the story of Bunny Man Bridge. Yeah, thanks a lot, you guys. Bye.